Everybody, welcome to the webinar. This is the P8 training webinar with Ryan Morris, Austin Wright, and Nick Smith. We're going to be talking about tips and ideas around training and how to be effective in your sales business. So this is for sales specifically on this webinar. We might have others that cover other topics, but the main things that we're going to cover are the 8 P's of training. That's why our company is called P8. But we have planning, policies and procedures and programs. And then we have products, performance, proficiency, and psychology. And then we're going to go into each of those areas individually and just kind of go into what we mean when we say that. So I want to welcome you guys to the call. Do you have anything you want to say?
No, thanks, Nick, for having us on the call, buddy.
Yeah, I appreciate you letting me come in.
It's good. So you guys are good at what you do. I know that. I've seen you at work. So we're going to jump in and I'll just pick a topic and we'll talk about that specific topic and what you would do in that area. Does that work?
That's perfect.
Good.
So planning and goal setting is the first P that we look at. And so when you're looking at your business or doing something new, for me, I like to kind of line out a plan of what I want to accomplish. What do you guys do in that area? When you're planning, what are some of the tips that you would give as far as doing that effectively?
For me, I always, whenever I'm trying to plan something, I always try to work backwards. So I always start with where I'm trying to end and kind of build it the way that it should be essentially, but backwards, so I know exactly where I need to start. If you don't know where you got to end, you don't know where you got to start. So I think you got to kind of build it backwards, piece by piece, so you know what you have to accomplish to get to the end result that you know you want to get to.
So an example of that might be, I want to make $100,000 a year. For me, how do I do that? So you kind of reverse engineer it. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, you got to reverse engineer it, break it down even further, down to your month status, even down to a week status, so you can set a goal so you know what you got to make for that week by week by week. So at least that way you can plan for that $100,000. If you're not planning to hit your weekly goals, how do you just expect it's all going to come in one week at the end? Like you need to prepare for that.
I mean, plan for miracles, right? Like
yeah. You never know.
Ryan,
no, I'm along the same lines of, planning for me is a lot like goal setting. If you have a destination that you're going to go to, say you're driving from one side of the country to the other, or you're going to California to New York. Well, if you don't have a plan, any road will do, right? You might end up in Florida. So you might be way off the mark, and even just a couple degrees off, if you haven't planned it out, can take you hundreds of miles away from where you want to be. So I think the more specifics, the better. I'm with Austin. You make a frame, make an outline, set a goal, and then work backwards into it. Do a little backfilling. So I like that.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Perfect. I'm going to clarify how I do it. So mine is, I use what's called the ICCAA framework. And it's so identify, clarify, commit, act, and adjust. And so kind of like what you're saying is you identify what you want to accomplish, and then you clarify the path for getting there. And then you make a commitment to do that. So you're all in. So I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there. And then you take action around that. And then in that action, you make adjustments. So as you're going along, you adjust so that you get more and more effective. I use the analogy of shooting a bow and arrow. We were talking about this the other day, right?
Yeah, we were.
How I would shoot at a target to be miles off, right? So if you think about shooting at a target, initially you might be terrible at it. You might be shooting that bow and arrow and be miles off. But as you adjust and re-aim and fire, you're going to get closer and closer and closer until eventually you're hitting the bullseye and you get effective. And so with planning and activity and goal setting, you really have to be clear though. Would you guys agree with that? Of what it is you want to accomplish?
100%.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you're not clear, you're just going to get lost.
You're just shooting at whatever. Like I'll take whatever comes, right?
Yep.
I'll go to Florida. Right. Actually, that doesn't sound too bad. I would actually do that.
Yeah, wouldn't mind.
All right, so let's talk about the next section, policies and procedures. So this is a little different. Companies set up policies and procedures all the time for their business. Like, this is what we expect you to do. These are our rules for playing our game. So if you want to go work for our company, you got to have these policies that you're going to set. But have you ever considered doing policies and procedures for your own personal business? So as a salesperson, what are some of your guys' policies that you have for yourself individually?
You're up, Austin.
Let me start. Yeah. So,
No pressure, but this is all on you.
yeah, right. No, it's not like it's live. So, with the personal policies, I mean, it varies a little bit, but I think a lot of people get lost on policies because they forget who they're for. They forget who they're trying to make the policies for, and they want to make sure that it stays effective with the business, that they're liking the business. So you don't want to make policies that you disagree with. You don't want to make your employees do policies that they're going to disagree with entirely because they're not going to do it. It's just going to create some contention. So with mine, I try to make sure that all of my policies are something I'm going to follow up with. So for all of my policies, stupid little things that are always trying to help you, like always try to make sure that you're on time. Always try to make sure that you're over communicating with everything versus under communicating, over promise, under deliver. I mean, simple policies like that I've kind of integrated into my own businesses have really kind of helped me out, and stuff that's easy for me to follow that you can see a payoff in the end. You know what I mean? But
that's awesome. Brian, what do you think?
I think that the policies and procedures are just like an essential part of a business, because you got to know what you're doing, and then if for some reason you as the business owner or as the organizational leader falls out of that position, you got to have that in place to a degree. The more the better, especially in the training part of those policies and procedures, so that you don't miss a beat. If you die, if you're a business owner, you die, you're a doctor, and you have a huge staff underneath you, and they don't know what to do to support you. Or if you're maybe you're you own the business and you have some sort of a superhero in your life that's helping you, that knows all of the policies and procedures, but if something happened to them, nobody else would know. Those things are critical to get into place, and then also to write them down. There's a company called Sweet Process that you can add those into very easily, so that there's training for your employees, for your replacement, maybe when you sell the business. So policies and procedures to me are super critical.
So I'm hearing two sides. I'm hearing organizational policies and procedures, and then also individual. Like Austin, you were saying that you have individual policies that you hold dear, and then there are also organizational ones that if you had to replace somebody, how would you do that? How would you know what to train them on? I want to speak kind of to the personal policies and procedures. If you think about this sales business, I've never really thought of it as I'm really excited for working for this company. You know, if we take, a current company, General RV, and I say, man, I'm so excited to work for these guys. I'm just all in. Everything I do is for them. That would be a lie, because the reality is I'm there for me. This is my business. So even though I'm in an organization, I'm an entrepreneur, meaning that I'm an entrepreneur inside of an organization. And so having policies like answering phone calls immediately, responding to emails, over communicating, like you said, I think that's important. That's a policy. And then the procedure would be kind of the system that makes that a reality. Do you guys agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Any additional thoughts come out of that for you?
I liked how you said, talking about like as a salesperson, for instance, you're kind of working inside of another business. You're a business inside of a business, an entrepreneur, and that if you don't follow those things, they're set. The policies and procedures are set into place really to help you work inside of those, but develop your own. Like Austin was saying too, make sure that you're on time. Make sure that you're doing the things that you need to do inside your business, if that makes sense.
Right.
Because that'll help. That's only going to benefit you. So play inside, like in my case, General RV's policies and procedures, but then make your own as well and stick to them, because that's how you're going to be successful.
I like that. Austin, any other thoughts there?
Well, yeah, and at the end of the day, whatever personal policies or procedures you're making for yourself, that should carry on to your personal businesses, whether it actually is your business or not. Like you said, it is kind of your business. It is temporarily your business. So whatever stepping stones you're setting now is going to be beneficial in the future, especially when you start your own thing. When you do your own thing later, you're going to know what's effective and what's going to work for you. And because you've already weeded out the other policies and procedures that didn't. So utilize that time when you have it and make sure that it's, like I said, the best fit for you going forward.
Yeah, I like that. There's a quote that says, how you do anything is how you do everything.
Yeah.
And that applies. I mean, how you show up inside of this personal business is how you're going to show up inside of the larger business and in society as a whole. And so what are your guidelines for you personally? And so something to think, that's rhetorical that you might hang on to. So as you think of that, you're creating a plan, right? I'm just going to keep it guided down the path here. So we got our plan and goal setting, and then you go into your personal policies and procedures. And then the next natural step when you're starting any kind of a training program is to learn the programs. Like, so software, CRMs, paperwork. People put this aside like it's not important. You know, they'll go right into the sales tactics. How do I become a better salesperson? Well, shit, dude, what happens if you sell that person and you don't know how to fill out the paperwork, or you don't know how to plug them into the program? You don't seem very confident or competent. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. At work in sales, I've seen many a salesperson who, even some people that have been with a company for a long time, and a lot of times it's the newest person coming in because they're not trained on that stuff, and the company just releases them out into the wild and says good luck, and you have a lot of people fall out because of that. But then I see a lot of people that in sales that maybe have been there a long time, but there's a change maybe in the paperwork, or in maybe they go digital and they're resistant to change, and so their own business personally suffers.
Right.
I think anything sales related. I mean, you can go to any sales job you want, and the very first thing they'll probably start to preach is follow up, right? That's usually your very first thing. And it amazes me to go through all these companies that I've seen and all these business owners and multi-million-dollar companies, and you go talk to them and you're like, hey, let's go through your program, see where we can improve some stuff there. Let's go start with your CRM. And they, okay, well, let me pull up my Excel sheet. You know what I mean? And just like you're running off of an Excel sheet with a multi-million-dollar company, like how is this even working? But
right.
You know, and then that's the point, is that your program's there to kind of save you. I mean, your follow-up, everything needs to have somewhere to go. You need to have something to remind you of the next steps, where your next sale is going to come from. If you don't have the programs in place to help you get to that point, how are you keeping track of it? You can't remember hundreds of people. And even with an Excel sheet, the time and effort that it takes to go through that, your program's just not in place. You're spending 2 to 3 times the amount of time because you didn't set up your programs.
Right.
So,
man.
Yeah, important.
I like that you hit on that. You've got to take time to slow down and set up your programs. And you've got to know what each program is for. Like a CRM, for example, a lot of people use it as a salesperson. They think, man, I'm going to plug people in the CRM. It's going to do all the follow-up. I don't have to do a thing. They're going to pop out the end with the sale, right? But you got to know what that program's for. That program is for launching only. The whole purpose is to get you in conversation, and that's where the sale occurs. Or if you're tracking your follow-up, you know, if you're doing it from an Excel spreadsheet, which this is crazy to me. I see $50 million a year companies using old archaic dot matrix. I don't know what you would call it. DOS
systems. Yeah, DOS systems.
Yeah, it's like, and still printing on dot matrix or something, or Excel.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, Excel is cool, but man, you are so behind the times. But I also understand the resistance to change because of the amount of energy it takes to shift from an older program to a newer program, especially when it works.
Yeah.
And so that can be costly for a company to shift everything from one program to another, because the reality is it's working well enough that they can perform.
Some of that too, though, Nick, leads into performance, because inside another business as a salesperson, you don't have to wait for the company. Be proactive. Get out there and start. If your company doesn't have a great follow-up system, make one. Get out there and learn how to follow up. If your company doesn't have a great system for the process in sales, Start
Yeah.
figuring out what works. Dig in the trenches, write it down, make notes, perform, get in there and do. And you know, you'll see some amazing results and be rewarded for doing so.
Yeah, I like that. Austin, did you have a thought there?
Well, and you'll have an info for later. Like I said, if you did dive into whose ever business that you're in, you know, and start making any of those programs, or like Ryan was saying, then you have those for later on. You know that knowledge for your own thing, because almost every time, eventually, you know, plans change. You want to change up what you're doing, or take a shift or whatever. And so if you have that knowledge already in place, it's an easy transition to just plug in the next thing and keep moving. So yeah. There's never a downside.
One question I like to ask people is what operating system or what internet browser do they use? You know, and a lot of people will take what's given to them. They'll do Internet Explorer or Safari. Well, that's an indication that that person is waiting for people to tell them what to do, and they'll just take whatever comes to them. But you get somebody that looks for Chrome or Firefox, and they're looking for better options. So Ryan, you hit on the point of creating a system. Well, there are already systems out there. It might take a lot of energy and effort to create something. And sometimes you have to, because it just doesn't exist. I did that with the RV industry, as I created a calculator that tells me which banks to go to based on, you know, credit score, geographic location, value of the unit, because it doesn't exist. It helps me learn the bank programs quicker. But that program wasn't there. But there might be something out there, an app like HubSpot, for example, as a CRM, that you can just implement in your own personal business. I think that's the big thing here, is make it your own damn business.
Yeah, and you don't have to go reinvent the wheel, right?
Yeah, yeah. Which I think talks about performance, because I'm going to use the example. We're going to jump into the performance section here. Actually, I'll hold off on that. I'll talk about it in proficiency a little more. But performance, this is your business. So what do you have to do to go from where you're currently at? And I can tell you, most salespeople are in the bottom 2/3 of the company. Most. Very few make it to the top, right? What I find is that those that are in the bottom 2/3 are the ones that are just kind of taking what's given. They show up and clock in and clock out, but there's no growth. There's no change. Whereas those at the top have found systems that are more effective, more efficient. And I can tell you that if you start doing what they're doing, you can be just as efficient as they are. So should we talk about that, the performance? So what are some of the tips that you guys can give for going from the bottom 2/3 all the way to the top? What would you say?
For me,
maybe that's a valid question, but
what?
Go ahead.
Oh, no, you're good. I was just saying, for performance for me, it's always I don't know. You always have to find eventually your main goal and the reason that you need to perform, and the reason you want to. And in almost 9 times out of 10 in sales, it's money, right? You want to add a little bit of extra money. That's your end goal. That's the whole reason you're there, is because you want to add a little bit of extra money. So I think that as far as the performance goes on it, that usually sorry, I lost my train of thought here for a little bit. Got a little distracted.
Okay. Good.
You can edit that.
Well,
So if you're looking at a goal,
I'll come back.
On that bottom 2/3, you know, Austin and I had both worked for the same company at one point in time, and both of us were top performers consistently in that space, in that business, and we didn't pop in there instantly. There was actually both of us had talked about a little bit of a growth curve, and you know, we came from something that was successful, came into something else, and had to learn a little bit. It wasn't day one we just hit the ground running, because you've got to follow some of these 8 Ps. You got to go figure it out. But what we both did is we started watching and learning from top guys that were already in the industry, that were being successful, and then said, hey, well, what are they doing that I'm not? And then fill in the gaps. And you can save a lot of time by finding a mentor, somebody else that's already performing or doing something that you want to do, and then just go do what they're doing, start performing, and you'll get there.
One of the things I did when I was selling Subarus is I looked through because you can see a performance list, who's in the top 10, top 5, whatnot, with all their contact info. So I pulled up all that list, and then I started calling those people and asking them what they do. And one of the people out of California, she's top in the entire nation for Subaru sales. She completely opened up to me and told me everything that she does. Like, I just asked, hey, I'm new. Do you want to tell me?
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah. It was awesome.
Share information, right? They
Yeah.
They want to talk about themselves and their success. That's human nature. So go sit down. You might be surprised that one of those guys opens up to you. Go ask.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt to ask, right?
You don't need to necessarily reinvent the wheel every time. You know what I mean? Like somebody's already doing it. And I don't care what you're in. Somebody's already doing it, and they're probably doing it better 9 times out of 10. You know what I mean?
Right.
So there's a very good chance that somebody's already doing it. Take their process and slightly improve on it. You know, but at least lay the groundwork. You know, there's no reason to start over.
Yeah, I like that. One of the things that I think we should hit on between programs and performance is product knowledge. Man, I think it's huge that somebody's going to ask you a question and you don't know how to answer it. Like, hey, tell me about this car. What's it got in it? Sorry, dude, I have no clue. Let me, it's got a hypodufinator thing over here. I think.
Flux capacitor.
Confident, let me buy from you. So can you guys speak to that as far as product knowledge? How important is product knowledge in improving performance?
I think it's huge. I mean, especially depending on your clientele, but if somebody asks you a question specifically about a product and you give them the wrong answer, you lose credibility entirely. And even worse, and this happens to me all the time, is that when somebody asks you a question they already know the answer to, they're testing you to see what you're going to do. And they're testing to see if you know your stuff. So if you don't, or if you give them the wrong answer, you're done. You already lost. Like you're already out. So if you don't know what you're talking about, no, you can't bullshit your way through that. It's not going to happen. I mean, sometimes you can on certain aspects of things and you can get away with it on some people, but it'll almost always come back to bite you with the right clients. So you need to know, at the end of the day, you need to know your stuff. Otherwise you're just swimming, you know?
And if you don't, like Austin makes a good point there. Don't BS people. Don't do that. Go back through, just tell them, look, I don't know the answer to that. I'm new. Something. Say, obviously I need to work on my product knowledge a little bit. I apologize. There's somebody here that does know. We can get you the answer. I found that is the best policy. You have more of a shot of gaining that customer at that period of time by being honest, telling them you don't know, and that you can find them the answer, guide them to the answer, versus lying to them or trying to fight your way through with just misinformation to try to somehow pull the wool over their eyes. So just a little tip there.
The thing is, if you look at today's consumer compared to the past, the availability of information is just through the roof. I mean, they can find out everything that you can find out. And so like Austin was saying, when they come in and they're asking questions, a lot of times they're just testing you to see if you know what they already know. And if you don't, then they're going to be like, yeah, you're not my guy, right? Or girl, or whatever, like, or however you identify now. Right. So, but the reality is they want to test you and see if they trust you, because if you're making shit up, they're not going to trust you. And then there goes performance. It doesn't matter what you say or what tactics you know, you're out.
What makes the difference of a great salesman too, Nick, is somebody that goes back after something like that they get caught with, kind of with their pants down per se.
Yeah.
They don't know is the guy that'll go back and sit at his desk and study. He'll learn. He'll go ask questions. He'll go talk to his sales manager. He'll go talk to the top performer and say, man, it was in this situation. I didn't know. They'll call a product rep. They'll watch YouTube videos. They'll figure it out. So the next time that comes up, they'll know the exact answer. And then on top of that, then they don't want it to happen again. So they're gonna push and learn their product even more, so that it just never will be an issue in the future.
Right. That's good.
So maybe once. Go lie once and see what happens, just so that it pushes.
Just as a test.
You get caught, and then you're like, oh, dang it. I think all of us have probably lost a big sale by not knowing something or sounding dumb, you know.
Misinformation.
Yeah, I'm using misinformation. So
much better to say, I don't know, right? And go back and find it and then come back to them and say, hey, I found that, here it is. And be quick about it. Don't waste time. Like 3 weeks later is too late. Like if somebody wants information, they want it, we can go to the Google.
Go to the Google.
We can go to the Google and get information like immediately. And so if people are waiting around on you, they're going to lose interest. And so somebody said that we have the attention span of less than a goldfish. And so, which is crazy. I mean, but with social media and technology, we're impatient. We want information now. So, what'd you say? Not you?
I said, you lost me after 8 seconds.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was zoned out and thinking of something else.
The listeners, they lost track after 8 seconds at the beginning of this call. Stick through it. I promise it's good information.
So if you look at it, though, this is your business. So if you're looking at performing and you want to take yourself from the bottom 2/3 of your company up to the top third, you're going to have to put some effort in. You have to look at it as, I've got a plan. If my plan is to be in the top third, what does that look like production-wise? You know, the nice thing about all three of us is we are all active salespeople right now, and we're building a business. And so it's a case of, we know what it's like to be in the trenches. We're there right now. As we're making this video, we're in those trenches, and we know what it takes to go from the bottom 2/3 to the top third. And it's not by just taking whatever comes. I mean, you've got to treat it like this is your business. And so make time to learn your programs, to learn your product. If you could spend time on those initially, I know it's a slowdown initially, but you've got to be able to learn those two things so that you become efficient with the sales tactics when you get to that point. You guys agree with that?
Yeah,
absolutely.
As far as like on the proficiency side,
yeah,
the how you get there is a lot of practice, and then doing it, finding out what works. Some companies already have a sales process that's proven, time tested, that'll work. Yeah. Don't, if you're new at that, don't differentiate at the beginning, because you want to put yourself in the highest odds possible to get a sale. That would be it in the beginning, especially. Once you start learning that and become proficient at that, then hey, maybe you can change something here and there. And if you see an increase, then go with it. If you see a decrease, go back to the standard from what the company set up, and keep plugging away. But don't change course as far as the proficiency on that. But definitely course correct with a manager or a mentor or a sales manager.
What's crazy to me is 52% of dealerships don't have a formal training program in place. They just hand you a book or say, go online to this and good luck. That blows my mind. I mean, if your goal is to make money in this business, which that's my goal, this is the only reason I show up every day is because I want to make money. Then there should be something in place to help me do that. I've been in businesses where there is no formal training program, and I'll go create my own or go find my own, and I'll take the initiative on my own because it's my business.
Sure.
And I get the sense you guys are the same way. I get the sense. We've been working together. I know that about you guys.
Your sense is right on.
Yeah.
You know, too, Nick, is that it's interesting that two top RV dealerships in the United States, two of the biggest, family-owned and the privately held that I've worked for. And of those two, one had, well, both of them had a manual. They had a book about that thick. You read through it, and guess what? They were almost identical. They were virtually the same process, which was fine. One sent me to training once a year for about, bless you, for about,
sorry.
They sent me to training for about a day and a half in that first company, in the largest private or publicly traded company. And then said, hey, good luck, give you a little pat on the bum as you head out the door, and good luck. And it was so training. It was okay. The other one, walk into the dealership and they plop down this manual on my desk and say, there it is, read it. That was the training that I got, you know. And
as a goldfish, you're looking at that manual going, I got 8 seconds.
Yeah, with a goldfish with ADHD, a goldfish with ADHD looked at it. Yep, nope.
Yeah, nope, yep.
Nope, yep.
Still haven't finished it.
Yeah.
But so the biggest closing of a gap is going to occur from the bottom 2/3 to the top third. You're going to see huge improvements as you change your business model, right? But when you go to the top third and you want to go from top third to number 5 in the company, number 1 in the company, you're going to see incremental improvements. And this is where proficiency comes in. You know, I'm going to share the story of Roger Bannister and the 4-minute mile. You know, it took over 100 years for people to break the 4-minute mile. In the past 60 years, that record is only improved by 17 seconds. And so in 60 years, there's only been a 17-second improvement on that, which blows my mind. You would think, oh, we should be at the 2-minute mile by now. No, we're at like 350, 347 or 343 or whatever it is, compared to a 4-minute. But you look at it, it took 100 years to get to a 4-minute, another 60 years to shave off another 17 seconds.
Wow.
And so when you're looking at proficiency, the bottom 2/3, you're going to see huge closing of the gap, right? But then when you go from the top third, you want to go from top third to first place, it's going to be incremental improvements. Does that make sense? Can you guys speak to that a little bit? What have you seen there? And what are some ways that you get more efficient, if you'll share that?
Well, sales proficiency is just like any other muscle, right? I mean, it's just like you got to work the muscle, and it takes a while to build up. I mean, obviously, if you're starting it from nothing, it's going to take a little bit to get you going. In the middle, it gets a little bit easier. Towards the end, you know, obviously your improvements are less, but they seem less, but they're big. You know, they're big deals for you. So,
Right.
Just like with any other muscle, you need to work it. You need to change it. You need to adjust your routine a little bit. But at the end of the day, you're still growing. You're still getting better. You're still getting bigger, right? And so that's the idea, that you just need to keep trying at it, keep trying. But
I like that. Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, I really like that analogy, actually. That's a perfect analogy. You can see massive improvements if you start at nothing and start working out hard. You're going to lose weight. You're going to build muscle. You know, things are going to come quickly. After that, it's incremental growth. And so, but still could be big deals for that person at that time. But then they can focus more on those. They don't have to go back and build up their bicep. They've got a bicep. Right. You know, they might want to make that the ball on top nice and round or something. You know, just get a little tighter. I was
just gonna flex, man.
Oh yeah, better than my flex. You know.
Yeah.
You have a pretty good bicep, Nick.
Throw that in.
Ooh, look at that. Speaking to sales managers, because there's going to be some of those, or general managers that might be listening too, is that you might want to focus more of your time working with the bottom 2/3. I think that the opposite happens, is that in the RV industry, the car industry, the two industries in sales, they just kind of throw a bunch of salespeople at it and say, good luck. And they hope that they'll grab some of the low-hanging fruit in their friends and family, and then boom, they disappear because they fail. If they spent just a little bit more time focusing on the bottom 2/3 and helping them lift up, I think they'd see a big difference in their overall numbers for their dealership or whatnot, or their organization.
I keep hearing that from new car salespeople. I get hit up pretty frequently. I have an article on Reddit that people are responding to, and they're saying, look, I got dropped in this. I've got no training. I don't know what I'm doing. I need some help. And they're reaching out for help outside of their dealership. Their dealership has nothing in place. But thank God they're out there trying on their own to do it, you know, finding a solution on their own. I'm a bit of a nerd here, so I'm going to use the Rubik's Cube as an example. It took me a bit to figure it out, but there's a story of a guy. It took him 26 years to figure out the Rubik's Cube. He lost his family, lost his job, devoted everything. That's not funny, but in a sense, he Don't laugh at that.
Oh,
He did everything to figure it out. Sometimes we do that is we put so much energy because, hey, you know what? I'm going to figure this out on my own. I don't want your help. I don't want outside influence. I don't want outside resources. And then we burn through it. And by the end of it, we find out, holy shit, I could have watched a YouTube video, right? And figured this out a lot quicker.
in about 4 minutes.
Yeah, right now the fastest time it's been solved is 3.5 seconds. If you can imagine just how fast that is. You can go 26 years and figure this shit out on your own, right? Go for it. If that's what you want to do. I won't be around for that.
Me neither.
Or you can take and implement programs that are already effective and put those in place and have a huge closing of the gap like we talked about. And then from there, get incrementally better, get more and more proficient. And so that's what we're trying to do is we're trying to close the gap between the bottom 2/3 and the top third. Like we want to take you from those bottom 2/3 up to the top. And that's where you're going to see the biggest increase in performance. The top third is going to be incremental. Like you're not going to see a huge jump on the top guy. He's already at the top. You'll see incremental increases. But I'll use an example. There's a guy that I work with that I trained on a tip as far as finance goes. How to improve his finance process. In a month, he went from $3,500 a copy to over $7,000 a copy. He went from producing about $135,000 in gross to $240,000 in gross in a single month. So that huge closing of the gap happened. But now what he'll do is work on getting more efficient at that top position. So he went from number 55 in the company to number 5 in the company in a single month. And he's maintaining. It's not a case of he went backward. That would be a miracle, right? It's just some fluke. But now he's holding, and now he's incrementally getting better. And so I think we got to keep that in mind. Is it's just those small improvements. Austin, did you have another thought there on that?
I'm just thinking the small improvements. You can't get discouraged by it. People always want to see these massive jumps, but it's not always. You can't always have a massive jump. Sometimes the small ones are going to make the biggest difference. You know what I mean? It's the little adjustments that steer you in the right direction, and then you're on course. So
Right.
don't be scared off by the little incremental adjustment. I mean, you should still be pushing for them, but there's more improvement to be made elsewhere. So
I like that.
Like,
Yeah, that's good.
Sounds like a little adjustment, like just that little tip, right? That little teeny tip that Nick gives. It changed the guy's per copy by $3,500, give
Double.
or take. Times he does 20 deals or more a month, depending on the time of season, is $70,000 a month. So sales managers, general managers, is this a big deal? Is a little increment a big deal? You bet it is. Times 12 is somewhere in the neighborhood of $850,000 a year more by Nick stepping in and teaching just one little tip. Almost $1 million a year more, and that's one finance guy. Imagine
That's one. Yeah, that's
multiple finance guys, multiple sales guys by just tweaking some little things.
Your biggest increase in your business is going to be in the bottom 2/3 of your company. Those salespeople that are in the bottom 2/3 that's your biggest opportunity right there for growth. And so part of that goes into what we talked about is they need the training. And a lot of dealerships aren't equipped to handle that. And that's where our program comes in. You know, you've got the planning, the policies, procedures, the programs, the product knowledge, the sales tactics. Like a lot of these dealers are overwhelmed by doing that. And this is what we do on a daily basis. This is exactly how we grew our businesses. And so coming together on this is awesome. And one of the last P's there that I always talk about is psychology. Yeah, it does start with a P, the silent P. We can do that. This is our business. I can say philanthropy, and that starts with a PH. So if you want some fat PH-AT profits, this is the program for you. But psychology encompasses it all because really we're dealing with people. Every day we're dealing with people. And people are psychological creatures. They use their brains. They use their emotions to make decisions. And you have to know how to use that to motivate people to make the decision you're wanting them to make, to persuade them. And so if we look at psychology, I did my master's degree in industrial psychology because I love figuring out what makes people tick. I love figuring out what makes me tick, but that also translates into what makes other people tick. And so I can use that to get them to do what I want to do. So
That's
certain words.
Hey, Nick, that's a Nick tick.
Is it?
You
So
love these jokes.
yeah, I love dark humor. Yeah, bring it on. But the psychology, yeah, I just lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry. That was
No, you know, I look at, so in my office, for example, I have light blue walls. I try and determine when my customer was a teenager and play music from that era because that is what they connect to the most. If you think about it, your teenage years are the most iconic for music and other things. So you hang on to that through life and you always love it. It was a happy time of life. And so I try and play music that relates to them. But I have soft chairs. I have sunlight kind of shining in the room so that, you know, it feels bright in there and energetic. People will just come sit in my office and almost get therapy just by sitting there. But I'm using psychology to get the customer relaxed because I know that the more relaxed the customer is, the more valuable my product becomes. You know, a warm drink translates to warm emotions, which means that they trust you more. A soft chair means a soft negotiator. There's a ton of research to support all of this. Every word I use, I might use the word, hey, when you come by, because by is a homophone, which means that it brings up the word B-U-Y, B-Y-E, and B-Y. And so when you say, when are you coming by, it programs that person to be ready to purchase. So psychology is going to play even in your motivation. Like, how do you get yourself out of bed in the morning? Well, trick yourself a little bit, right? You guys probably have some routines that you do on a daily basis that help you stay motivated, that kind of get your mind in place where it needs to be effective. Can you share any of that? Anything that might come up for you there?
Yeah, as far as you were saying about not programs, but processes for psychology routines. So for me in the morning anyway, psychology, one of the first things that I always trying to think through is I got to get my mind right first thing in the morning. So I usually, I set my alarm about 15 minutes before I have to do anything, 15 to 30 minutes. And most of the time I don't touch my phone. I don't do anything. I just avoid everything but myself. Just to get my mind wrapped around it. I think through what I got to accomplish that day. And I think through my why, right? Have you ever heard that? Where you got to find your why. Are you getting up? Why are you going to work? What's your why? So I got to get my mindset first thing in the morning. Otherwise my day is just lax. I get lazy. I end up on the couch. I'll take forever on breakfast, whatever it is, you know? So if I don't have the right mindset going into it, if I'm not driven from the beginning of the day, my day's half of what it should be, you know, if that.
Sure, it goes back to the planning too. That's a good part of the planning routine to get into. He does a little personal, you know, checklist and planning. And then the psychology part of that is getting his mind right, because it sets up your whole entire day, especially your morning routine. So I know Nick has a morning routine. My morning routine probably needs a little bit of work, Nick. So we'll have to go over that with you. But if your routine needs a little work, fix it. You know.
But also, you know, psychologically, mentally, you might not be in the game. And if you have systems in place, you don't have to be in the game for you to be effective. And so this goes back to planning, because I've had times where emotionally I'm a wreck, but I just follow my system and I'm still effective. I'll still sell the shit out of you. You're going to make money even though I'm angry today, right?
With a smile on his face. I'm so angry.
I'm so angry. Would you like to go ahead and do that?
Yes.
Yeah. So one thing that we put together for you on the video call is we have a program. It's a 60-day program of psychology tips that you'll get to your inbox every day. And then we have the book that goes into detail in each of these areas, in each of the 8 Ps, but it also gives you a ton of tips as far as going from the bottom 2/3 to the top third. And we'll mention that, you know, after the fact here, but I want to bring it up here because we've already gone through the hard part here of figuring out what it takes for you to be efficient and for you to be effective as a salesman. Especially, we all have an experience in car sales or RV sales. But Austin, even outside of that, this applies everywhere, any kind of sales. If you want to go on a date with somebody new, this is going to be effective because you're going to learn sales tips to kind of create that. Like, it doesn't have to just be, you know, selling something. And so we're gonna give you a link to that after the video here that gives you access to that. It's pretty cheap. I think it's, what is it, $30?
$29.99 or something like that. But what is that worth? Like, that's flipping nothing. To get these daily psychology tips, phenomenal, cheap, really, and you can't afford not to. That's what I would say.
I mean, these are the tools that we use to earn $100,000 a year each or more. You know, you're to be a 6-figure.
A lot of tears, a lot of struggles, a lot of banging our heads against the wall. You get a lot of these for $30, really. You know, a decent dinner. You get to learn these things. That's
a decent dinner.
So
I like that. We're gonna reframe it for $1 a day.
Just for $1.
We're about the price of a cup of coffee a day.
Yeah.
For only 2,999 million pennies,
That's
you
right.
can have these sales tips. But really, take advantage of it because these are effective tools and they're in place for you right now. And this video will give you some ideas, but this is where the rubber meets the road. And then also down the road here, we're going to be doing a live event that'll go even deeper. So you really want to launch your business, this would be the way to do it. And so I'm going to just kind of recap what we've talked about real quick is you got to start, you know, with the 8 Ps planning. You got to have a plan in place. Okay. And then you want to establish what your personal policies and procedures are. You want to learn your programs. So all your paperwork and your programs, man, that's a lot of P's. So the acronym for this is P, 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 P. So say that out loud with me. So you go into your programs and then you need to learn your product. So you got to be efficient at your programs and paperwork and then efficient at your product. So go out there and fill your mind with everything you can learn about your product. And then work on performance. So this is where your techniques come in. So you're going to learn different sales tools that are going to make you more effective, word tracks, ways to set up your environment to make you more effective. And then you're going to work on proficiency where you're incrementally improving. This is where you go from the top third to number 1 in your company, right? And then all of it is wrapped with psychology, every bit of it, from your motivation to your planning, how to be effective at planning, setting up policies and procedures that you'll believe in and follow through on, tips and tricks on how to learn your product quickly, things like that, performance tactics, they're all wrapped in psychology. One for your personal motivation and also for the motivation of the client or customer on the other end of the tape, right? And so that kind of gives you a brief overview of what the 8 Ps are and why they're so important in training. Do you guys have anything else you'd like to add to that?
No, for me, I would say that go through these things, rewatch, like, rewatch this, re-listen to it, sign up for the tips, get as much information as you can. Come to a live event. We've got a live event November 12th. It's going to be phenomenal. It's a one-day, highly intense training where we're going to slam through these. We're going to dig in a little deeper, though. We're going to go through information fast because it's a day. We have like 3 or 4 days worth of content jam-packed into a day. So we're going to give you a ton of information on this event. Come to it. Spend the time. Invest in yourself. It's less than $1,000, $799, and you can come to this event and learn, get hands-on training. We can take you aside personally, one of us, and talk to you individually about some of your needs and how to break through so that you can be a top performer, so that you're not stuck in the bottom 2/3. We'll teach you how to move up in whatever your goals are. We're going to go through these 8 Ps. So there'll be a link. Go to p8training.com so that you can see this, sign up, get to this event. Whatever you got to move around and shift. I realize it's just before Thanksgiving, but we did that so that we're not stuck in the holidays. So plan it out. Make sure that you're there.
Awesome. Austin, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I just say that, you know, for me, it always helps writing things down, thinking it out, looking everything on paper. So, I mean, I'd start there and kind of work forward. Like we kind of mentioned, most of this stuff isn't something that's going to be only for one direction. I mean, most of the stuff you can take and implement across the board in multiple businesses, multiple aspects, whatever you need to get into. So, I mean, like Ryan was saying, invest in yourself a little bit here. Take some time to actually learn something so you can get better. There's only, you know, no one's going to move the needle but yourself. So if no one's going to do it, it's up to you. Like no one else will do it, I should say. So, yeah, I don't think if you find an opportunity that you can honestly better yourself, I would take it. So
awesome. Cool. So that's, you know, let's wrap it up here. That's going to be the webinar for the day. Check into those sales tips in the book. Look at the live event. If you want to reach out to us, do that. We'll give you information here in the webinar to do that. But man, take the initiative for yourself. This is your business. Who cares what the dealership's doing? This is your business. And so take that initiative. Hopefully this is, well, I know this has been valuable. It'll get even more valuable as you dive in. And so thanks for being with us on this webinar.